You know, property owners in certain areas of Cape Coral are getting blindsided right now with tens of thousands of dollars in assessments and fees, and you really ought to be aware of what's going on right now. Of course, I'm talking about the utility extension program that's going on in certain areas of the city. And so in today's video, I'm going to really get in depth with the utilities extension project. I'm going to tell you what that is exactly, why it's going on, and what locations of the city that's happening. And I'm going to explain to you the process of how that all goes down. And then I'm also going to break down kind of the costs that you can expect if you are in these affected areas, as well as some of the benefits that you might not be aware of once those utilities get into those locations. So a lot of really great information in today's video. It's not going to be particularly exciting by any means, but it's going to be chock full of some really great useful information, especially for the people that are maybe looking at moving to the city of Cape Coral, or even if you live here now and you just kind of want to be up to speed on this program and what you can expect if you are in these affected areas. So a lot of great information today. I'm also going to wrap this video up and kind of give you my opinion as a 20-year resident of here. I'm going through this right now. I live up in the northwest section of Cape Coral where the utilities are coming next. And so I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think of everything. Maybe you disagree, maybe you agree with me or not, but a lot of great stuff in this video. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a near 20-year full-time real estate broker here. I live right here in this, like I said, in the Northwest Cape with my wife and our 3 little kids. I do a video like this every single week on this channel. Oftentimes we're looking at some really fun real estate like we did last week. And other times, like in today's video, I'm just giving you some really great useful information for the folks that are looking at moving to the area. Or like I said, even if you live here now, there's a lot of good useful information for you as well if you want to keep up to speed on everything. So if you haven't already done so, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell and turn those notifications on so you can see these videos every single week. I promise you're going to get a lot of great useful information out of these, and I just do it because I know if I can give you a lot of great information, provide some value for you, I know that you will remember me when the time does come and you do need a realtor. If you're looking for property, if you're looking at selling some property here, of course my contact information is right on the screen. I would love to hear from you. Call, text, or email me anytime. With all that out of the way, let's jump right into the utilities extension project and talk about why it's very important to stay on top of this right now. All right, so what is the utility extension project? Why is the city doing this? Well, the utility extension project just simply means they're going into some of these areas that don't have central water and sewer infrastructure, and they're putting that infrastructure in and forcing these homeowners to kind of hook up to that, because the northern half of the city particularly is still on well and septic systems. When the original city of Cape Coral was platted years and years ago, it was designed more as a rural community, and these individual properties, these individual homes were all on individual well and septic systems. So they're drawing water out of those shallower aquifers, and in the absence of a central sewer system, each individual property has their own septic tank, their own septic system. And so the city kind of found out years and years ago that that was not going to be sustainable as more and more homes were built in the city. We have more and more people drawing on those aquifers, and as a result, the aquifer levels have been going down for decades. And they're getting to the point now, particularly because we've been in drought conditions for the last few years, where those aquifer levels are getting dangerously low. And we've actually seen some instances in some older, shallower wells where these homeowners, the wells, they're going dry. Right now, they're having to dig them deeper. So it's just not sustainable. And the city has had the foresight to say, you know, we need to get this central water and sewer infrastructure, take these folks off of those well systems so they're not drawing on those shallower aquifers, and we can get something a little more sustainable moving forward. So this has been in place for decades right now. The reason that they're doing it is, again, because not only are we drawing too much water out of those aquifers, a lot of the older septic tanks, they may have cracks in them, and so this contaminated water has been leaching into some of our waterways. Of course, our natural resources here in Southwest Florida are our lifeblood, and we need to be making sure we're taking care of those. So there's multiple reasons why they are doing this right now. A lot of people are upset with it because there is a cost associated with it. But let's go ahead and get into the locations that are being affected by this utility extension program right now. It's mostly in the northern areas of the city. All right, so where is the utility extension project currently going on, and where are the future planned zones in which it's going on? Well, like I mentioned, the areas to the south of Pine Island Road got their central utility infrastructure years and years ago. So this is not really affecting them at all. We're mostly talking about areas north of Pine Island Road. The vast majority of the city north of Pine Island Road, the homes are still on well and septic systems, and the city is slowly moving into those areas. And they've divided those areas up into different zones, and they all have numbers. And the ones that we're dealing with right now, say for instance North 1 or North 2 or North 3, North 8, North 9, they're not necessarily going in sequential order. And here's a map that you can look at that the city has on its website, so you can kind of see the anticipated dates where this program is going into those areas. And like I mentioned, they're not necessarily going in sequential order. So for instance, they did North 2 first, and now they're currently in the process of doing North 1. And North 1 is actually in the eastern side of the city, the just north of Pine Island Road, and that's actually been divided up into two different sections because it's been going on a long time and they've had to kind of subdivide that particular location. So the North 1 West is pretty much wrapping things up right now, and then North 1 East is going to be next, and then we're going to go over, as it says on these dates, these are anticipated completion dates that you're seeing on this map. North 3, where I live, is going to be next. They're going to start this process probably within the next year or so, and then they're going to be moving on from there. So they're really kind of concentrating in areas. Right now they're on the what's called the mid-Hawthorne aquifer, so homes are drawing water, well water, out of the mid-Hawthorne aquifer. That's the one that's kind of been depleted the most in terms of our water sourcing here in the northern areas of Cape Coral, and so they're kind of prioritizing those areas to make sure they can get those homes off of that aquifer sooner, so we can kind of alleviate the reduction in overall levels for that mid-Hawthorne aquifer. So these are the locations that are going in. Each individual section is going to kind of have its own way of doing things. They're going to bid these things out, so we don't really have consistent pricing on the assessment amounts that are going into these areas in the future. It'll kind of be done on a case-by-case basis. But let's go ahead and get into that now. And now that you know kind of where these locations are on the map in which these utility extension project is going in, let's kind of talk about how this process works, and then we'll kind of get into the assessments and what to expect on that front. All right, so how does this process all go down? Well, when they get to a new zone, the first thing they're going to do is obviously go through a planning process. They're going to have engineering firms do surveys, aerial surveys. They're going to plan the entire thing out, and then they're going to open things up to a bidding process where the actual contractors can come in, bid the actual work out, and hopefully the city's going to select the best contractor at the best price to save the property owners the most money. But once they've done that, and there is a process by which the public can participate, that they're going to have public meetings and hearings and things like that that you can attend if you do want to participate in that process to make sure the city is being held accountable to the contractors and the bids that they are selecting. But once that's all taken care of and the actual work begins, they're going to go into these individual neighborhoods and they're actually going to tear the streets up. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience to the folks that live in these areas because your streets are going to be torn up for a little bit while they actually lay that infrastructure. And they're putting 3 different lines in. They're putting in, of course, the potable water that's going to come out of your shower. They're going to put in the sewer lines, which go through the middle of the street. And then they're also going to put in reclaimed water, which is only used for irrigation purposes. And that's kind of an optional thing that you can hook into if you want to have that reclaimed water and use it to water your grass on a weekly basis or something like that. It's optional for you to hook into that. You don't have to, but a lot of people choose to do that just because it's less of a hassle than keeping your well water as your source of irrigation water. But that's maybe a topic for another video. But nevertheless, once they get finished laying all of those infrastructure and all those pipes in the street, then they're actually going to go in and they're going to pave those streets. So these neighborhoods will get brand new paved roads once this is all said and done. So that's kind of maybe a little bit of the benefit of going through that process, by which you're going to be inconvenienced for a while driving on some dirt roads and maybe having some road closures and things like that in your neighborhood for a while. But once they get all of that out of the way, the city will send these property owners what's called a notice of availability for the central utility infrastructure. And at that point, once you get the notice of availability, you've got 180 days. That clock starts ticking to go ahead and have, on your own dime, have a plumber come in and actually hook your home up to the central infrastructure. Like I said, you've got to hook up to the potable water for your actual water going to your house. And then, of course, you have to hook into the sewer line And part of that process also involves abandoning your old septic tank. So you're going to have to go through a process with a plumber to abandon that septic tank and then hook into the water lines, both the potable water and the sewer, and then optionally, if you do choose to go ahead and hook into the reclaimed water for your irrigation, that's an optional thing for you. You're not, again, required to do to hook into the reclaimed lines, but they are going to be there for property owners that do want them. And that's kind of the abridged version of what that process looks like, and more importantly is the cost that's associated with this in terms of the assessments and the impact fees. So that's what we're going to get into next. All right, so this is probably the most important part. What is the financial cost of all of this if you are a property owner in one of these areas where the central utility infrastructure is getting put in through the utility extension project? Well, I can tell you that each one of these zones is going to cost a little bit different right now, and I can tell you what's happening right now in the North 1 zone. But like I said, I live in the North 3. We're next on the docket. We don't yet know what our total assessment and impact fee total costs are going to be just yet, because again, they bid these individual zones out before they do it. So the costs could be wildly different between one zone and another. I can tell you a number of years ago when they did North 2 first, I think the assessments only totaled out, it was somewhere under $20,000 or something. Right now in North 1, where they're currently doing the utility extension project, those property owners for a normal quarter-acre size lot are getting hit with a total of about $34,000 right now in assessments. So that could be a little bit less in North 3, it could be a little bit more. My guess would be that it's probably going to be a little bit more, considering inflation and everything is getting more expensive these days, but we just don't know yet, and that's part of that public input process that they're going to be going through before they get started on that work in North 3. But nevertheless, let's just use the North 1 as an example right now of what to expect there. The total cost there, like I said, about $34,000 once you add up the individual assessments for, again, 3 different things: the irrigation, the reclaimed water, the sewer, and the potable water. You got individual assessments for each of those 3 things, and then you have impact fees on top of that. And everything totaled together is about $34,000, again, for a normal quarter-acre size lot. Now, if you have a triple lot, or if maybe you have a quadruple lot or something, your lot is twice the size of that regular quarter-acre lot, you're going to get hit with a lot higher assessment, because they do it based on the amount of land that the property consists of. And so the $34,000 I'm giving you is just based on a normal, regular, buildable size quarter-acre Cape Coral lot. And there's a couple different options that you can take in order to pay that off. You can, of course, pay it off all at once, and you're going to save interest and long-term expenditures that way. But what most folks do is they actually amortize that $34,000 over a number of years. The default, if you don't pay it off all at once they levy those assessments, the default is for the city to go ahead and put you into a 30-year amortization program. And basically what that entails is you're going to pay about 6.5% annually on essentially borrowing that money and wrapping it into your tax bill. And so if you take the 30-year mark, it's adding right now to the folks that are up there that get that $34,000, it's adding somewhere between $3,500 and $4,000 onto your tax bill every single year. And it's actually considered part of the non-ad valorem taxes on your tax bill. So again, that includes not only the principal buy down, but also the 6.5% or so annual interest rate on what essentially amounts to a loan. So most folks are going that route. You can also choose electively to reduce that amortization time frame down to either 20 or 25 years. But if you don't do anything, it's going to automatically assume you want the 30-year, and that's where it's going to start taxing you on your bill every single year, that extra $3,500, $4,000 on top of your regular tax bill. So it's a pretty significant expense, and that's why I say, a video like this is so important for folks to kind of at least get introduced to this topic so they can be aware of what to expect. Now, in terms of those assessment balances, let's say a property chooses that 30-year amortization. When you go to sell that property, you can have the buyer assume the remaining assessment balance on that, or you can just pay it off all at closing and use it as maybe a marketing tool or something like that, saying, hey, we've already been through the utility extension project here, and I'm going ahead and paying off all these utility assessments. So you can pass it on to a buyer. Most buyers are going to want those paid off before closing. On top of the assessments and the impact fees, of course, you're going to be required to connect to those sewer lines on your own dime. So you've got to go out and hire a plumber to go ahead and abandon the septic tank, hook into the central sewer lines, and then also hook into at least your potable water and optionally the irrigation reclaimed water as well. Now, what that cost is obviously varies by depending what plumber you hire, but the average cost right now is probably somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for the plumbing costs, and then you have another $500, $600, $700 in various permit fees and things like that. On top of that, you got to pay a deposit for a water meter in most cases. So you're looking at somewhere between $2,500 and maybe $3,500, $3,600 in total costs in terms of hiring a plumber and getting that process completed. And again, you have to do that within 180 days of getting the letter from the city saying, hey, the central utility infrastructure is now ready for you to go ahead and hook in. So you've got 6 months basically to do that before you start getting in trouble. So significant costs. You're talking about a total cost of in the upper $30,000 for that North 1 section right now. I will say that there are some programs there for lower income households where you can get some help to actually pay for a plumber to go ahead and hook into the central utility infrastructure. And there's also a program where you can actually defer paying those assessments every single year until you go ahead and sell your house. You have to apply for it every year. There's information on the city's website. I'm not going to get into it right now, but you basically have to qualify for income levels, and you've got to apply for this hardship deferment program every single year. I am going to link down to the city's website on the utility extension program down in the description of this video if you want to check all of that information out. There's a lot of great information that's over and above what I'm covering in this one. So there are some programs out there for folks that maybe can't afford this right now, but overall you just kind of need to be aware of what these costs are going to be moving forward, especially if you are either buying a place up in these areas right now or you own something right now. And the utility extension project is getting in over to your neighborhood. So a lot of costs there. Now, what's the benefit to all of this? Well, the first benefit that you're going to get, just because they're going to be bringing in fire hydrants to these neighborhoods, you're going to get a little bit of an insurance discount more than likely, just because the risks go down once you can have those fire hydrants in these neighborhoods because central water is running to them. So you're going to get a little bit of a discount on your homeowner's insurance, but the bigger benefit to having these central utilities hooked in is your property values are going to go up. It's demonstrable in the statistics of the Cape Coral real estate market, and I'll just give you kind of some figures based on just vacant lots. The average vacant lot sale right now is running around $40,000 in those northern areas where homes are still on well and septic systems. If you go down south of Cape Coral Parkway into those areas that already have central utilities, the median price for those vacant lots again is over double. It's about $90,000 to $100,000. So you consider you go into a northern area, you buy a lot for $40,000, you get hit with a $35,000 assessment on now you're into this lot for $75,000 and it's worth $90,000. You're basically getting 20% equity just by going in there and getting these utilities hooked in and paying off those assessments. So there are some benefits. Of course, you don't realize those benefits until you go ahead and sell the property, except for the homeowner's insurance discounts for existing homes up there. But it is overall a good thing for property values once these central utilities get into these areas. So it's not all a bad thing. It's not all hard costs without any benefit. You are getting some increases in your overall property value once these utilities are in there. So it's something to consider, but overall you just need to plan for these big expenses and be aware of what's about to happen if you are in these locations where these utilities are coming in. All right, so what is my opinion on all of this as somebody who's lived here for 20 some years and as someone who's about to go through this process and have our roads torn up in our neighborhood and have this infrastructure put in, and on top of that have to experience the hard cost of these assessments and these connection fees and all of that. Well, you know, it might be an unpopular opinion, but I think ultimately, even though it is a hassle and it's something that we have to deal with, and nobody likes to have big costs like this get attributed to them, it's ultimately a good thing, and it's ultimately something that's needing to happen, especially in the northern areas of the city. We just can't continue to grow at the pace that we've been growing. We can't really, if you didn't build another house in the northern area of Cape Coral, we would still be in trouble with that aquifer, particularly the Mid-Hawthorne aquifer, and we're just unsustainably reducing the level of that aquifer every single year. So this is not something that we can just optionally say, let's set this to the side and not deal with it, because the problems that are going to occur if we don't take care of this right now are going to be exponentially bigger than if we go ahead and take the little bit of pain right now with this utility extension project and get this done. So as somebody who's about to experience this, overall, when you weigh the positives and negatives out, I think it's ultimately a really, really good thing, not only for the overall health of the city, not only for the overall economy of the city of Cape Coral, but just from a strictly, you know, personal viewpoint, that my property values are going to go up in excess of likely what the assessments are going to be. It's going to make the neighborhood worth more. It's going to make the properties in the neighborhood worth more. And we're not going to have to deal with any potential hassles of wells going dry or, you know, septic tanks rupturing or anything like that. And so overall, I think the benefits outweigh the costs greatly. And that may be an unpopular opinion, and I certainly understand how it is for a lot of people out there. And, you know, this is a big financial hardship when you get hit with $34,000 on top of trying to pay a plumber $3,500 extra dollars to connect to everything and retire the septic tank and pay all the fees and do all that kind of stuff, not to mention all the hassles of having the roads torn up and everything like that. But this is an eventuality that needs to happen, and we might as well deal with it now before we have to deal with much more problems in the future from wells running dry and from a lot of other environmental issues. So overall, I'm not excited about it whatsoever, but it's something that we need to go through, and I've watched these other areas go through it, and ultimately everybody kind of gets through it one way or the other, and we're a better city for it. So I would encourage you maybe to participate in the public you know, portion of this process. Make sure you go down, make your voice heard down at the public meetings and the hearings on these things. Make sure you hold the city's feet to the fire and make sure they are doing the best they can to keep these costs down. If there is any possibility of looking at other avenues of revenue to kind of offset these hard costs for some folks, I'm all for that. And so, you know, I think we need to be coming together to create better solutions for this situation, but it's ultimately a problem that needs to be solved, and the utility extension project is just the way we have to go about solving this thing. They already built the water plant up in the north, and so we need to get all these homes hooked to that water plant. So we're making good use of it, and we are doing what we can to alleviate the pressure on the aquifers and everything else down here. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was very dry, but hopefully there's a lot of great information in this, and hopefully you have a better understanding of what this whole process looks like and what the costs are going to be associated with it. I still think there's opportunities to buy properties in these northern areas. You just need to be planning on these assessments and the costs associated with it and going through that whole process. So if you are looking in the area and you don't want to mess with that, maybe pay a little bit extra to have another property in an area that's already undergone this situation, is already connected to the utilities. But I think ultimately, whatever you choose to do, you just need to make sure that you're aware that this is going on and plan for the future accordingly. And if you need help with that, certainly reach out to me. I would love to hear what you're looking for and how I can help you out and how I can help you navigate this process. You can call, text, or email me anytime. If you're somebody who lives here now and you're worried about this process, if you'd like to, you know, have a chat with me, I'd be happy to discuss what the ramifications are when you go to sell the property, or what you can kind of be planning on doing if you're looking at selling that property in the next couple of years and you're going to have to experience this utility extension project. So my lines are open. Call, text, email me anytime. If I can do anything for you, please reach out. That's why I'm here. That's why I do these videos. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you did get anything out of this video, do me a favor, hit the like button as well. And it just helps me out, helps the channel out. But I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got a lot of great information on it. I appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. I'll see you on the next video in just a few days.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding.